Welcome to Lesson 2 of Learn French with Louise. Today we are going to cover les accents, la cédille et le tréma. These accents are a very important part of the French language, and mastering them will help you tremendously with mastering your pronunciation of the French language. So let's get going. Allons-y. Why do we have accents in the French language? Well, there are several reasons. Let's explore these. One of the reasons we have accents on the letters in French is to change the sound of the vowel that it accompanies. Accents affect vowels, usually. And so, for instance, when the accent affects the vowel E, it changes the sound of the E from an E to an E or to an E. We'll explore these sounds later in the presentation. Let's move on. Other accents represent letters that have disappeared over time. For instance, in the word forêt, there used to be an S, and that has disappeared over time and been replaced by an accent circonflexe. In the word host, hôte, same thing. Il, same thing. At, same thing. Bat, same thing. Example of other letters that have disappeared over time, âge and mur, which is wall. So the accent circonflexe, which we'll see in detail, represents letters that have been dropped over the centuries and been replaced by an accent circonflexe. Other accents will serve to distinguish between two words which will have the same spelling, but which will mean two different things, will have two different meanings. So for instance, ou without an accent grave will mean or, but ou with an accent grave will mean where. Or mais without tréma will mean but mais, and with the tréma the sound is different. Maïs will mean corn. Sur will mean on, but then when you put an accent circonflexe on the U, now sur means sure. Jeune, without an accent circonflexe on the U, will mean young, but once you put an accent circonflexe on the U, jeûne means fasting. It also changes the sound of the word a tiny bit. All right, let's move on. The first accent we're going to be looking at today is l'accent aigu. L'accent aigu. It's going to be applied to the letter E, and it changes the sound of the letter E to E. E. Remember your alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, and with the accent aigu, it becomes E. Here are some examples that I'd like you to repeat with me. Éléphant, éléphant. Défense, défense. Érosion, érosion. Région, région. Différent, différent. La lettre E, accent aigu, E. The second accent we're going to be looking at today is l'accent grave, l'accent grave. And the sound of the accent on the E is E, E. So it changes the sound of the E to E. And here are some examples in words that I'd like you to repeat with me. Système, système. Père, père. Mère, mère. Frère, frère. Oxygène, oxygène. L'accent grave can also be used on the letters A and U. It will not have any impact on the sound, on changing the sound of these letters, but it does have an impact on the meaning of these letters when they're used in a word context. So if we look at the three examples given here, when I have an accent grave on an A, the A's meaning changes from being to have to at. So a means to have versus a means at with an accent grave. So it's pretty significant. Ou without an accent grave on the U means or. Ou with an accent grave on the U means where. La without an accent grave on the A means the. La with an accent grave means there. So it does make quite a significant difference by its presence, although it doesn't change the pronunciation. Okay. L'accent circonflexe can indicate a couple of things. One, that a letter used to exist and has been replaced by l'accent circonflexe. Usually it's an S, but it can be other letters as well, an A for instance. Another thing that the accent circonflexe can indicate is that a word containing an accent circonflexe can mean one thing, and that very same word with the same spelling, but without the accent circonflexe, can mean another thing. L'accent circonflexe will not change the sound of a letter except for the letters A and E. E, accent circonflexe, has the same sound as E, accent grave. So the sound is E, E. So let's practice with a few words. Forêt, forêt, crêpe, crêpe, conquête, conquête, which means conquest, intérêt, intérêt, and suprême, suprême. L'accent circonflexe on an A changes the sound of the A from a sharper sound to a softer sound. So an A normally has an A sound, A, and then the accent circonflexe softens it to an A sound, A. So if we look at my first example, the word is T-A-C-H-E, which has two meanings, depending on whether you have an accent circonflexe on it or not. So with an accent circonflexe, the word tâche, tâche, means a task, une tâche. Now without the accent circonflexe, the word means a stain, and the sound is different. Listen closely. Tâche, 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 versus the task, tâche, tâche, ta, 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 ta. So the accent circonflexe changes the sound of the letter and also changes the meaning of the word. If we look at the other examples and practice them together, we have bâtisse, which is a French word for building. Bâtisse. Âge, âge. Pâle, pâle. Château, château. In all of these examples, you can hear the sound of the A as being A, A. For the letter O with the accent circonflexe is really representing the elimination of a letter in the word. Usually it's the letter S. Let's go ahead and practice these words together. Remember that the H in French is silent. So the first word is the French word for host, hôte, hôte, hôpital, hôpital, hôtel, hôtel, rôle, rôle, fantôme, fantôme. which means phantom in French. L'accent circonflexe sur le U. The pronunciation differential is really insignificant. But when you have an accent circonflexe on the U, it can change the meaning of a word. So it can be used to signify the disappearance of a letter over time, but it can also mean that two words that are spelled the same way can have two different meanings if there's an accent circonflexe. So the example I give on this slide is sur, S-U-R, which means on, but when you have an accent circonflexe, it can mean sûr, sure, or certain with the accent circonflexe. Jeune, without accent circonflexe, can be young, but with an accent circonflexe, jeune can mean fasting. And the examples that I give here, août, repeat with me, août, crouton, crouton, flûte, flûte, ragoût, which is a stew in French, ragoût, mural, mural. Cécédille. Cécédille is an interesting letter. C by itself can have two sounds. It can have a k sound or a s sound. The C will have a soft s sound if it is preceded by an E, an I, or a Y. It will have a k sound if it is preceded by an A, an O, or a U. If we wanted to have a soft s sound in front of an A, an O, or a U, we would add a cédille under it. And that is the purpose of cédille, to soften that sound. So let's look at some examples in the following slides. In this slide, you're going to notice that we have two columns, and all of the examples are words where the C is preceded by an A, U, an O. And as I said previously, if the C does not have a CD, the sound of the C is going to be a K sound. If the C has a CD, the sound of the C is going to be a S sound. So let's go ahead and practice together. First column, K sound. Académie, africain, cube, cocoa, cuisine. All of those C's have got the K sound in them. Now let's listen to the sounds of the CCD words. Français, façade, reçu, leçon, garçon. All of those C's with the CCD have an S sound to them. That's the difference. So if your C is preceded by an A, an O, or a U, and does not have a CD under it, your C is going to have a K sound. If your C has a CD under it, it will have a S sound. So just remember that. That's an important pronunciation lesson to keep in mind. And remember as well that if your C is preceded by an E, an I, or a Y, it's always going to be a S sound. So if we look at this slide, let's pronounce these words together. Certain, which means certain in French. Centre, civil, cinéma, cybercafé. None of these C's needed a cédille because they are preceded by E, I, and Y. So the sound of the C is automatically a S sound. Finally, we have le tréma. Les trémas are two dots that we put above the vowels E, I, or U. And the purpose of the tréma is to make sure that the sound of two vowels are distinctly pronounced. Usually when you have two vowels that follow each other, they drown each other out and one dominates. So the purpose is to make sure that we pronounce both vowels distinctly. I have 5 examples and we're going to go over them together. I will pronounce them with the tréma, and I'll show you what the word would sound like if we didn't have a tréma. So the first one is naïf, naïf, which is the French word for naive, to be naive. If there was no tréma there, the word would sound like naf, nef, nef. We would not hear the I. Second word is Noël, Noël, which is the French word for Christmas. Without the tréma, it would be Nôl, Nôl. The third word is maïs, maïs, French word for corn. Without the tréma, first of all, the word would be mais, and it would mean but. It would be a completely different word. The fourth word is Caraïbe, Caraïbe, which is the Caribbean. Without the tréma, we would say Carèbe, Carèbe. And the last word is aigu, aigu. And without the tréma, we would say egg, egg. So the tréma is very important in the pronunciation rules of the French language. Okay. Thank you so much for watching this lesson 2. I hope you learned some really important things about the French language and French pronunciation. Make sure to like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in lesson 3, all about the pronunciation of letter A and words with letter A. All right, I'll see you soon. Au revoir, à bientôt. Bye.